What's up, guys? This is Heis, and as some of you may know, I just took a little bit of a me break from the channel. I posted on the channel and then in the Discord. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. A lot of people don't see the little posts, they only see the videos. So just so you know, I took that little week off, and I say little, but in the terms of YouTube, that's about a century and social media and all that. But I was having a little bit of a tough time, and I needed to take a break for myself, and I appreciate the love and support you guys really showed me. I mean, it really did mean a lot to see all the comments on there and the messages that I got. I really appreciated that. For those of you that didn't know, I'd like to be vulnerable with you guys. My fiance and I split up after about 3 years, and it was a challenging time, and it's going to be a challenging time moving forward, but I don't want to get into the details there. It was kind of a mutual thing, and that's that, but that was the nature of my situation. But I had this moment while I was taking my break that was really kind of almost an epiphany and this really uplifting moment for me. And it relates to, of course, narrow gauge railroading. So I wanted to share it with you guys and talk about it on the channel because I think it's important to recognize why we do this and where we come from and the core of those beliefs. And I was kind of moved by these couple moments that I had, so I wanted to talk about them. So these moments have to do with a book, and that book is this book, Little Engines and Big Men by Gilbert A. Lathrop. This is not my copy. This was loaned to me by one of the three-quarter idiots. Love you guys, as always. I had never read this book. It has been long out of print since, like, 1955, I think. And the premise of this book is that it is stories from Gilbert Lathrop's dad. And his dad hired out on the Denver and Rio Grande, not the Denver and Rio Grande Western, the Denver and Rio Grande, when they were building the chunk of the alignment that is now the Cumbres and Toltec, back in 1880 or 1881. He was an engineer for the railroad for like 50 years, and the amount of stories in that book are insane. They are amazing. I mean, just hearing all these train stories, and some of them are funny, some of them are cheeky, some of them are terrifying, some of them are horrifying. But I really, really found a great connection with the stories and that feeling of railroading. I'd never read the book myself, but my granddad, who I've talked about on the channel, who got me into trains, had read a couple of the stories from the book to me, or actually had them memorized and told them to me when I was a little kid. And so it brought back that sense of why I wanted to get into railroading and why I like trains and why I do what I do. I looked into the copyright, and it looks like the copyright was renewed in 1982. I would love to share some of the stories from this book on the channel in some form or another. If anyone knows how I can contact who holds the copyright for this or has an idea of how to do that, please let me know, because I would love to share these and give credit to the Lathrop family and everyone, because these stories are gold. These stories are what built the narrow gauge in Colorado, the start of the railroad. In the beginning of the book, Gilbert's dad is talking about the first time he rode on a steam train. He was a little kid, something like 10 years old or something, and they were staring at the engineer and the engine crew up in Canada somewhere working on their little 440, and they're watching the engineer oil around and everything, and they're all timid little kids just trying to see what's up, and he gets up the courage to ask, "Hey, can we ride with you?" And the engineer says, "Sure, if you want to do some labor and help us load wood and water," because this was like 1875 or something. And so you picture something like the Jupiter or the 119, those adornished, beautiful locomotives with all the colors, and this kid gets to, at like 10 years old, ride with the engine crew for a day, go on an adventure. And just that kid-like glee of, oh my god, I'm on the railroad and doing this thing. I felt that exact feeling in my stomach when they were talking about it. Just, there's something magic about that, and it was something that I had lost to just years of doing this, but to bring that back and have that feeling come back in this time made me feel really, really good. The rest of the way through the book, there's a million fun stories, tales of hilarity, tales of calamity, trains getting knocked down off the mountain from snow slides, and crazy stuff, and a lot of great history of the Rio Grande. I mean, they talk about building the whole railroad. And the funny thing for me along this book is at the end of the book, they're talking about the end of his time in like the 1930s, and they're retiring some of the steam engines and they're abandoning some of the railroad. And I started to tear up and I started to get sad. You know, it's a story that I well know what happened. I well know what of the Rio Grande is left. I worked for the Colorado Railroad Museum. I should know this, you know, and you know the end of the story, but it was still so moving and powerful to hear it from his tale, from someone who was there from not quite the beginning, but early enough that he saw the Montezuma in person and helped to build the railroad. It's incredible. So it's kind of a rare book, but if you can find a copy, absolutely recommend it if you love railroading. But, I mean, it inspired me and made me feel... It made me feel like a kid again. And it made me feel so good in a time when I was having a pretty tough time. Hopefully I can get the copyright stuff sorted out, and hopefully I can share some of the stories with you guys on the channel, because I would love to read these. A couple of people have told me they like hearing the way that I read stuff and read stories before, so I would love to get to share a couple of my favorites, but absolutely go find it, and whatever we can do, if anyone knows people that we could get a new set of batch of it reprinted, by all means. It hasn't been printed in like 70 or 80 years of math later or whatever. It would be awesome to get a fresh copy. But before I go, so copyright or not, there was one quote that hit for me personally that I do want to share. So, of course, this is copyright by the Lathrops and Little Engines, Big Men, 1955. And this is Lathrop talking about the first time he fired an engine with a straight stack, a shotgun stack, instead of a diamond stack. I've only seen a couple diamond stack engines that operate, you know? Kind of crazy. Oh, this is the first time after 30 years in my career. Jeez. Anyway, the exhausts of engines always did have a kind of fascination for me. I remember the first shotgun engine I ever fired, way back in the past. I'd put in a fire, then sit on my windowsill, with the upper half of my body outside, listening to that little locomotive bark to the stars. It's a little poetic, and the reason for me that it hits home is I have done that exact thing with one of the exact class of little engine he's talking about. He's talking about a class 70, and obviously it's C19's the modernized version, but you get the fire set, and you're going up the hill in the cut with the 346, the 20, the 491, any of them, and I normally wear hearing protection these days when I fire or run, but it's nighttime, it's Polar Express. You pull the earplugs out, your torso's out the window, and you just listen to the engine work. And that feeling is magic. And here is someone born in the mid-1800s, having done what I do, and did it for real. Don't ever let me claim that I'm like a badass railroader like these guys are. I play trains at a museum. But the fact that he had the same feeling and the same emotional response to the locomotive 100+ years ago, and we get to carry the torch and do that and help steam preservation, that's why we do what we do. That feeling, that want, that being in the cab, feeling that experience is something that I hope everyone can have in whatever field they choose to do, because it's one of the most fulfilling things out there, and reading this book kind of brought that back for me, and it's made me feel really good. So anyways, I hope you guys like this little story. Godspeed. I hope you can find a copy of the book if you want to read it. It's awesome. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it.